This episode is brought to you by Kia's first 3-row all-electric SUV, the Kia EV9, with available all-wheel drive and seating for up to 7 adults, with a 0 to 60 speed that thrills you 1 minute, and available reclining lounge seats that unwind you the next. Visit kia.com/EV9 to learn more. Ask your Kia dealer for availability. No system, no matter how advanced, can compensate for all driver error and or driving conditions. Always drive safely.
Join me, 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty, on my podcast, My Life of Crime, as I take on true crime investigations like no other. This season, I'm looking into the labyrinth of crime and secrets within families. I'm cutting straight to the evidence and talking to the people directly involved, including investigators and the families of victims. Listen to My Life of Crime with Erin Moriarty wherever you get your podcasts.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Boobies.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome to
Boobies.
Boobies.
I'm Josh.
I'm your host, Caitlin.
And
That was a mess.
It's okay. And today we're going to come talking to you about one of our listener requests.
Barbarian.
Requested by Miss Nancy. Nancy, thank you, Nancy, for this request.
Yes.
Something that I had previously watched.
Me
But
as well.
it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty cool movie. And we should just get right into it.
Yeah, it's directed by Zach Cregger and written by Zach Cregger.
Yeah, it's his directorial and writing debut.
Which
it's pretty crazy.
The last film we covered also was the directorial debut of Filippo.
The Filippo brothers.
Yeah.
Danny and
Michael. Yeah.
And so we do basically a horror thriller type of film. I would say it's kind of its own kind of ball game because it's
monster movie.
It touches kind of on a bunch of different genres.
Yeah.
Drama, rom-com, even for a moment there.
It really does.
Yeah.
It does such a good job. They do such a good job of painting Bill Skarsgård, Keith,
a little creepy.
As a creepy. I mean, of course, Skarsgård has such a unique face too that it seems like he just kind of has that inherently creepy.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
For him. No,
but also
creepy,
like
but
so
cute at the same time.
attractive.
Yeah.
I was like, this man is definitely handsome.
Well, it's the way that he plays his characters for sure. And the way he, the certain mannerisms as well. And even the cadence and like the speech, even the way Keith would like kind of not necessarily stutter, but like his delivery and his tone and like nervousness in his voice almost at times was very even coming off a bit like either try hard or
he's doubling back to cover up for something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Especially whenever she found the room.
Yeah.
And it almost seemed like he
already knew about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like trying to play it down.
Yeah. It seemed like he'd been caught.
I could definitely see
something. They did I just love how, and especially from the trailer too.
Yeah.
Do you remember the trailer? Like
it didn't give much away, but what it did make it seem was more of like him being the villain.
Yeah, with Keith being the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember thinking going into the film that Skarsgård was bad. And like they fully had me believing it until his head gets
it kind of gave cat and
smashed
mouse
in.
movie at first. It gave like Psycho. It gave like this is gonna go a certain way and eventually he's gonna try to kill her or something.
Yeah, exactly.
She's gonna have to try to escape.
And I mean, even though there was like the instance whenever he was asleep on the couch and then we see the door close behind her and stuff, that did make me clue in and then at that point too I had started trusting him.
There's something more here.
Yeah. But then I was like, oh, well, what if maybe he's got someone else already locked in the basement or something, even though we didn't know about the basement at that moment. It's still such a good job. I love this movie, y'all. Spoiler alert.
There's a lot of ways. Like, I feel like this movie almost gives, even like if they put it out with that, like, you know how back in the day you would get DVDs with like, and I think you've done this with different one. How should this play out? Like interactive, like you could choose different roles for which the movie could go.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, with Final Destination.
Yeah, because it gave very much like that type of vibe. Like it literally could have went in like several different directions of horror genres, subgenres, other than the way that it went. But yeah, could you just imagine seeing like a ghost like through the? I was just imagining it gave very Talk to Me.
Yeah, it was like that's like the exact kind of glass in Talk to Me.
But yeah. So
I could see a ghost through that door.
We have Barbarian, you guys.
I'll take a picture of the door for y'all to see. We'll post it on our Instagram.
And we open up on a rainy house. It's raining on a house, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is very eerie.
On this creepy little house, because the house looks put together, but just run down enough.
Yeah.
Like the door with how dirty it is, like that door needed a fresh coat of paint for sure.
I could see that.
And stuff.
Well, and it was the way that it was so dark and stormy around the house, and yet the house was the only thing like lit and framed, and like it definitely gave spooky vibes.
And the music throughout this entire,
I really
enjoyed,
especially when she's discovering the layer, whatever. And it's like,
I know I put in my notes like well placed soundtrack here, because it had that like plunking that was like ding. Dink, 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 dink.
Yeah, the synths. And we have our main character pulling up, Miss Tess. And she is... and at this point, too, the score is like wailing like behind like everything going on.
Yeah, there's like screams, actual screams happening in it. And then I love the transition shot
of it going through the window.
Yeah, and then the music intensifies, and then once we slip through the window, we get silence. And we just hear her saying like 831 or whatever, trying to remember the code
for the little lockbox for the key.
Yeah.
And she ends up ignoring a call from Marcus, which will come into play later. And then we have her trying to get in the code, which she enters in incorrectly.
I really thought Marcus would come more into play.
Oh yeah, maybe coming all the way, or like entering at some point, interjecting. No, I think it's just more to drive the narrative. Her character of like
why she's in Detroit and stuff like that. Yeah.
And so she ends up trying to get in, which she can't, but it's because she got the code wrong. But even when she does open it up, the key is not there. So she's like, what the heck, man? So she calls the realty, like Airbnb agency that got her the room, or, you know, the house, not necessarily a room. And she can't get a hold of them because it's probably, I don't know, it's like midnight or something. It seems like she's there late. And that's whenever we have her going back to her vehicle, trying to figure some stuff out. But and on the way back to the car, she notices that like the neighborhood, like it kind of is a little janky a little bit.
Yeah.
It's very dark.
Yeah.
Usually you have like street lights or something.
Yeah. Or like porch lights on and stuff. So she can't tell really just how run down this neighborhood is yet, but it seems abandoned because there's like no signs of life anywhere.
And then she's in the vehicle and she sees the light turn on in the window.
And she's like, and the soundtrack cues it too. And it's like, doom, doom.
Yeah. And so obviously she's like, what? So she goes up and she's ringing on the doorbell, knocking on the door. And then we have Bill Skarsgård come up. He opens the door.
And he opens the door and is like, yeah, excuse me, what the fuck are you doing on my porch right now? And she's like, your porch? This is not real dialogue that happened between them, but it's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah. And she's like, but I'm supposed to be staying here. And he's like, well, I'm staying here. And then that's whenever they're kind of like at an awkward, like, what do we do here? And then he invites her in, which immediately I'm just kind of like, no, don't go in. But, you know, it's only the first 3-4 minutes of the movie. So got to go somewhere.
And so she goes in, and as she enters the house, we get a title card.
Yeah, and I like how
it was really cool.
We transition, and she's walking, and then it's like, yeah,
and
the little bugs crawling on the Barbarian.
Yeah, it was really cool. I liked the title card, although I do think it would have been better placed right after he gets his head smashed in and right as we transition to AJ's character.
That's true.
I think it would have been really fun had they put it there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Fresh.
Yeah. In between it.
Mm-hmm.
And then because the true Barbarian is AJ.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For real.
Yeah. Well, and also the dad in the basement.
Yeah.
But we have her then.
Poor mom.
Yeah.
Mama is just.
She's just a byproduct of everything.
Misunderstood.
Yeah. We have her getting in the house and she wants to freshen up, but she's like, obviously, like, I showed you my information of me staying here. So can you please show me, your booking information? It's weird the way he's even like, oh yeah, just in case I'm like some weirdo or something like that.
Who's just broke in here to sleep or whatever.
It's his delivery where it makes it sound a bit like more aggressive.
Yeah.
And then like, haha.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go get my phone.
He's
and there's also the way he's
totally.
like, let me find my phone. Who has to find their phone? Most people already know where their phone is.
Yeah.
I feel like, because we're all glued,
Maybe
we're
he
all
just
glued
meant
to our
it
phones.
wasn't on his person because he was asleep.
But even then, why would he have to find it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he just meant
Go grab it.
Grab it. Yeah. But used weird vernacular.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? But basically, she goes to the bathroom, comes back out. He shows her his booking information, and
Well, it's like he's like, here's the thing.
Yeah, here's the thing, and everything lines up. He had booked it on HomeAway while she booked it on Airbnb, and there was some weird miscommunication where his dates overlap with hers, and yeah, they're basically in a standstill.
And they're just like kind of awkwardly like, well, I don't know what to do in this situation.
And so she starts looking for hotels, and he says, like, just stay in here because
there's some convention
creepy out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was like, just stay in here. Don't go back, sit in your car. Like, at least stay in here where there's a door and a lock and everything. Like, he was like, I don't know if you got a good look at this neighborhood, and had she seen it in the daytime, she probably would have been a little more like, yeah, let me stay in here. But he's like, just stay in here. She's looking for hotel rooms and she can't find a room. And he's like, oh, you know what? And even the way he brings up this, you know
information.
What?
Yeah.
By the way, there's
convenient.
a convention in town. Yeah. And it's like he's wanting her to stay there, which I think he was, but because he liked her, thought she was cute rather than him being an actual creep. Poor Keith and all this.
Well, I don't know. It gave
so misunderstood,
but it also gave it gave chivalrous. Yeah, but it also gave that type of chivalrous dude who's like more like, where's my hug, as opposed to like,
oh yeah,
being nice to be nice, and more like nice to be like, let me get in your pants eventually. Yeah, if that made sense. But also, who knows? He could have just been being nice.
I kind of had
you loved him.
I did.
You fell in love with him.
I did.
Yeah. Stranger danger, Caitlin.
I love
you would get
him.
abducted so fast.
I would have walked it, and I was sitting there thinking while I was watching this, I was like, damn it, I would have drinking that tea.
And I would have got the wine. I would have
been like, wine? Yeah.
Yeah. Open it up while I take showers.
Sounds great.
But yeah, we have her and him having these kind of weird, awkward moments at times because they're both just meeting each other. And obviously she's feeling like, this is a dude and I'm just in here kind of vulnerable. But as she's, calling for the rooms and not getting anything, that's whenever he weirdly is like, well, you know what? You could just stay here because I, as a gentleman, I can't just have you, being out and put out. Like you have to be here, and then and you can take the bedroom, and I'll sleep on the couch because this is what good dudes do. Yeah, yeah. And
she hesitates at first, but if I was her, I would have been like, okay, well, at least there's a lock on the bedroom door, and I could lock myself away from him if push came to shove. And that was necessary. And because it made such a big deal of her locking all the doors too. Yeah. Like whenever she went into the bathroom, it showed her pushing the lock on the door. Yeah. Whenever she went into the room the first time to like kind of offload her things and stuff.
When she found the wallet and stuff.
Yeah. She locks the door really once she finally agrees to stay there and stuff. She locks the door. But she does say I have this thing about clean sheets.
Yeah.
And he had already been sleeping in the bed. So they have to wash the sheets, which means that they're going to be up for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that's kind of fast.
Yeah, for sheets.
Maybe if there's a
Sheets
speed cycle or something on this laundry machine, washing machine, I don't know. My dryer takes at least 2 cycles because it's
to get through the sheets. Yeah.
To get through any clothing because it's old,
just old
and it just doesn't dry super well anymore.
Yeah.
So if it was my washer and dryer, it would be taking
4 hours.
4 hours. Yeah.
We're not sleeping.
We're not sleeping.
They're waiting for
right
this laundry and the wash. And that's whenever we have her, getting ready for the night. And then she comes back out, I guess, I'm assuming from like showering or something, or just getting ready for bed. And
he's washing her face and stuff.
Yeah. And he's like, I was going to open this wine, but I noticed that you didn't drink your tea. And so to not be weird, even though I'm still being weird right now, bringing it up, I was waiting to open it in front of you. So in case you wanted some, you wouldn't think I'm trying to like kill you or poison you or anything like that. Or slip you a drug, which I mean, it makes sense. And so, she's still a little bit uneasy because she's like, no, it's okay. You can drink. It's fine. But they start to get to talk to each other about like why she's there and her job interview. And they find commonality because he's seen the movie that, this director had made previously that she's trying to work for. And
Blue Easy or something like that.
It's a jazz movie, like a documentary, I think is what it was, kind of style or something like that.
Yeah, it was definitely documentary because she's a documentary style filmmaker.
Yeah. And so that's whenever we have then it transitions to like they've been talking a while. She's now drinking the wine, and they're at the living room, and they're having a conversation about like basically her life, right?
Yeah, because he really got her to open up to him whenever she was like, yeah, she's doing a documentary on like the housing district and stuff in Detroit, and he was like, oh, you know who you should interview for that is me. And she was like, LOL, why? And he was like, well, I'm one of the founders of the Lion Tamers, which I don't really know what that is.
I think for the film was like some type of group that is probably like outreach for artists or something, or like creates spaces for artists, because they were talking about how she was like, shouldn't you be living somewhere else? And he's like, oh, I'm scouting for our next block,
block of spaces. Because she was like, don't y'all own a whole block? And he was like, yeah, we do, but I'm out here on this side of town scouting out new neighborhoods and stuff. And so they transition, like you said, to drinking wine now, and they're talking, and she's opening up about Marcus and saying that basically she's trying to get out of this toxic relationship, and is coming to Detroit to hopefully, kind of turn her life. Start fresh, turn a new leaf and stuff. And we see that the laundry's done. Yeah. And they're still talking.
They're having a good time.
Yeah. They're just vibing.
And she actually here mentioned something that I feel like is a theme for the movie, and it's very important in terms of her character. She mentions that she doesn't know why, but she has a problem with she keeps going back. Like she doesn't know how to not go back. And I think that also runs really hard in theme for the movie, because there are so many times in this movie that she could honestly just like walk away and leave and get away, but she ends up going back to find out more, or to help, because she thinks people are in danger.
It ends up endangering her every single time.
And so they end up, like you said, still like bonding and stuff and having a good time, to where they're like now getting the bed ready for her to go to sleep. And he's showing her this like, cute way to put the duvet on.
Yeah, that was such a fun little scene. And her guard is really let down, so much so that she leaves the door unlocked whenever she goes to bed, which I was like, oh, yeah, that's not a good sign.
No.
Yeah.
Because now it's nighttime again, or not again, but now it's even later in the night. They're going to sleep, and she wakes up in the middle of the night because we hear creaking like happening behind her, and then she notices that the door is open to the bedroom. So someone obviously opened it up, and she's kind of looking out through the door frame, and she can see that Keith is like, and hears him. He's having some like nightmares. Sounds like night terrors.
Yeah, homeboy's having some real bad night terrors.
And she is like, whoa. So she,
and there was a weird, did you mention the weird screeching sound? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, no, I didn't mention it, but yes, there was a screeching sound.
Yeah. It was like
and then she is like looking at him, and so it turns from like concern for her to like concern for him really fast, because then she's like, you know, going out there and she's like, you know, Keith trying to wake him up
and freaked out. Like it's scary to watch somebody having a night terror. But I've been the one who scared people by having night terrors. So I know that it's unsettling for people to watch, because they always wake up, or once I wake up, they're always like, that was fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
That's weird.
Yeah.
And so she goes to wake him up, but obviously in waking up, he's spooked, and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, were you in my room?
The fuck?
Yeah. And she's like, were you in my room? And he's like, no, I didn't open your door. Like, you know, and so she's like, okay. And then it's really awkward. And like at the same time that this is happening, as she's checking up on him, we do notice that the door behind her that goes to the basement closes.
Yeah.
So we now see that like, okay, maybe there's something else going on here.
There's someone else in the house with them, which is terrifying.
Yeah, and then that's whenever we have her just going back to the bedroom and locking the door and then going back to sleep. So that kind of ends that night, because then we wake up the next day and she's slept a little bit too late, so she has to hurry up and get ready. And then I
love the transition shot too
from the night to day.
Yeah, the night to day. It was like they turned on a light switch. I like it when films do that. And
Hereditary.
Yeah. And then just the way that her body had shifted in the bed and stuff. It was a cool shot, in my opinion. They do a few transition shots that are like that or similar. Like whenever she's actually driving to the interview itself, there's one where she's like driving, then all of a sudden she's driving in the cityscape and parking her car and stuff. And they just do a cool job with transition shots in this film.
It's little jumps. And then we have her, like you said, or before
really,
she
it's like
gets
a lack of transition.
Yeah, it's just like a jump.
Yeah. There's no like
it's
cool
just like
blood going
it's like
down
a glitch,
a drain.
Almost.
Yeah, it's just like
switch.
It's like, okay, new film.
Especially in the transitions too.
Yeah.
And we have her getting out, and then this is when she notices in the daylight, like, oh damn, this neighborhood is rough. And then like you said, we have her driving to the job interview, which she finally gets to, and it's happening in like a coffee shop or something, or
yeah, it looks like a Starbucks or something.
Yeah.
On one of the houses, written in graffiti, it said "Death from Below."
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, on the house to the left across from the street, it said really big on it, "Death from Below."
Probably a warning sign.
Yeah, a warning that there's
whoever goes into that house is going to die.
Yep, there's death below these houses, and it'll get you.
And then we have her meeting her new employer. It seems like it's going well, because they come out and they're still chatting, and that's whenever her future employer is like, where are you staying? And she tells her, and she's like, oh, what? And it's very much implied that like that's a bad part of town, like she should not be staying there. And she tells her to be careful. And it's funny how Tess the whole time is trying to be like, no, it's okay, like I have a roommate.
Yeah, she was like, it's a complicated story, but it'll be fine. Yeah, they're in the Brightmoor area of Detroit is where this is supposed to be located. And yeah, Catherine is wildly against. Catherine's face was like, are you shitting me? She was like, this is a joke, right? Yeah. And but then anyway, she ends up rolling back home or back to the Airbnb and is getting out of her car. And this was the most terrifying. One of the most terrifying things is whenever you just see, it reminds me of that scene in Get Out when the granddad's charging, running at her.
Just coming towards her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
sorry.
Oh, well, yeah. And then in this one, you just see her getting out the vehicle, and you can see from like the blurred background that something is coming towards her.
Yeah. And
very fast. And it's obviously this man who is unhoused because he's like, he looks that way, and then he's yelling at her like, hey, little girl, get it, don't you go into that house.
He's not saying anything that would be like, hey, there's a murderer in that house,
or like, hey, like I know I look scary, but I'm just trying to warn you. Like it's very much like oh, this man is about to attack me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And little girl. And so she, very hastily gets into the house as he like runs up on the door, and he's telling her to get out, and she's just telling him to run and to go away. So she, does what anyone else I would feel does and calls the cops, and they're telling her, basically like, we're not sending anybody out there. This is not that important. He's not there anymore. So you're fine. And she's, obviously spooked. And at this point, this is whenever she ends up going to the restroom, I believe. And this is when she notices there's no toilet paper.
Yeah. And so she's on the hunt for some new toilet paper and can't find it anywhere. And then opens the door to the basement, the last door that she hasn't checked. And we see down there on top of another set of laundry machines. Yeah. There's TP. And so she goes down into the basement, which I was like, no, don't go down there. That's creepy. She goes down in the basement to get some toilet paper, but unfortunately this door tends to close and it closed behind her and locks her in.
And now a word from our sponsors.
And so since she's locked down there in the basement, she looks down at her pocket and she's like, fuck, she left her phone upstairs. And she checks her other pocket because she has the key to the front door with her. So she's like, crap, how is Keith going to get in here to set me free? Yeah. So she kind of starts to like look around. She looks out the window. She can't get it open. So then she just kind of starts to like explore down there to see if there's any way or something, or maybe something to help her get out. And that's whenever she looks on one of the shelves and she sees this hole in the wall that has a string coming out of it. And this to me is one of the most spookier parts in the film. It reminds me of, was it His House? Whenever he's pulling on that thing and then it pulls back. Yeah, because I'm thinking like, damn, I would just be afraid to pull on the rope because what if something pulls it back? Like, that's so eerie. And that's what I thought was going to happen. But
His House was such a good film.
Yeah. But it doesn't. And so as she's pulling that rope, she ends up opening like a secret door.
Which was
that's pretty creepy.
Pretty cool, but also terrifying.
Oh, yeah, because it's so pitch black and she can't see anything. And I love how she's just looking at it intently for a good while. And we have the music building up. And then it's just like the music cuts out and she's like, nope. And then we just have her, sitting there for a while, just kind of contemplating, looking into this abyss of nothingness. And then she sees the mirror and she kind of gets the flash of an idea, and she grabs the mirror and
honestly pretty smart.
Yeah. And reflects the light into the void. And she can kind of tell that there's another door at the end of it with the doorknob. So she sets up that mirror to where it's like leaning on some just old junk that's down there in the basement. And she decides to go in, which is pretty brave.
Yeah, I'm surprised. My notes say like she says nope, but then leaves the door wide open. And I'm like, I would have closed it. I would have closed that. Yeah, immediately. I would have been like, not for me. Not for me to see.
Well, even when she's shining that light in there and she's looking around, it's still super scary because I was also expecting her to like shine that light in there and then it like something be there.
Something be there. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't expecting it to go on as long as it did.
Oh, yeah.
And so, it's pretty smart, but pretty terrifying that she does this. And this is where the soundtrack's so well placed as she starts walking towards the door. And I was like, girl, do not go in there. But she does. And she finds like a creepy sex dungeon looking thing with this room. It's got this like completely stained mattress and this camera in the corner and a bucket, which whenever she finds Keith, I love how Keith just only focuses on the bucket and not the camera.
Bucket.
Yeah. He's like a bed and a bucket and a camera and but just the way I was like, God damn it, there's a bed and a camera. That's a bad sign.
It's not a good sign.
Not a good sign. And a bloody handprint
on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as soon as she sees that, she kind of stays in there longer than I would.
Oh, and even walking in there, I was thinking like, damn, this door is about to close behind her and Keith's got his next victim.
Yep, that's what
I was giving.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen.
But no, she ends up being able to walk out of there because she's obviously like, okay, there's something fucked up about this.
Yeah, some scary shit is going on.
That's
in
whenever
this house.
she hears Keith arriving outside. And so she goes up to the window and starts like, hollering for him. And she's able to open up that little window and give him the key. And whenever she gets upstairs, that she's having this whole freak out moment with him, telling him like, we got to get out of here. Like there's something terribly wrong here.
Yeah. And he's kind of stopping her, like quite literally blocking her from leaving, and which seemed suspicious.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he was just like, she's like, we got to get out of here. There's a room with a camera and a bed and a bucket. And we need to leave. And then that's when he's like, a bed and a bucket.
Yeah. And it seems like he's really stalling at this point.
Come on. Yeah. And he's like backpedaling.
And she wants to leave, but he's like, look, you know what? Forgive me for just like not wanting to leave scared because you're telling me this and that. Like, just wait here for me and I'm going to go check it out. And then we can go. Yeah. Basically.
And so that's what he does. He goes down there and this makes him seem even more suspicious too. Yeah. Whenever he gets down there and really isn't answering her calls.
Stops responding.
Yeah. Because then at first he's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden he disappears. And she goes all the way back into the sex dungeon and like is looking for him and he's not there. And then she realizes that that back wall is actually a door.
Yeah.
And it leads into more
room
space. Yeah. And
which is pretty freaky in itself.
Yeah, those steps, terrifying. And if I was Keith, I would have been like, yo, I found these steps. Let's go down them together. And I don't know
why he didn't do that. And also, yeah, because it's so creepy as she's yelling for him and he's not responding. And then when she does start to like, call out his name from up top, you can hear him now screaming for help. And he's like, please help me.
Yeah, help. Which made me feel like, oh, he's trying to lure her down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was faking it.
And so what does she do? She starts going down these really like narrow and like, what's the word? At an incline, like at any moment, steep. Yeah, it looked like she could have fell and like just tumbled all the way down. But they literally look like they're going to hell, which is pretty terrifying. Yeah. And so she's walking all the way down, ends up coming to this fucking like, it looks like those metal gates from like Titanic, like on the elevators, like type of situation.
Oh yeah.
And then she goes past that
elevators,
and she starts to find what the cages that are there with the bowls.
Yeah, there's as she's like going underground tunnels that have these offshoots of little like coves on them.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's one that has like 4 cages with like a dog bowl in there. And
all while Keith is still screaming like in the background, pleading for help.
And they're like the cages are like bloodied too.
Oh yeah.
If you can see tinges of red on them.
And she and then and also too, like I would not be like put in my location on blast like that, but she's just like, Keith,
she keeps screaming.
And I'm like, dude, I don't know if I'd do that.
Yeah.
But she then, as she's going further into it, and then it's freaking Keith just like stumbles on all fours out of nowhere, very scary. And he's like coming up to her.
Yeah, the way he crawls up is honestly so terrifying.
Well, because he also has those eyes that are very like, when everything else is dimly lit and you just see the eyes, they're scary. Yeah. They're big.
They're his little Pennywise eyes. That's why he did so well with that role.
Ends up getting spooked, but he's like freaking out and he can't really calm down. And she's like, we gotta go. And he's like, someone's down here. And
been bit.
He's like, someone bit me. And she's like, what the fuck? So they try to...
she's like, we got to go. And he was like, no, it came from that way. Like, we can't go back that direction.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, we have to go back this way. It's the way out. And he was like, no. And then all of a sudden, from behind him, this giant monster creature lady comes up. She's butt naked and her titties just swinging around everywhere. Yeah. And she takes little Keith's head and just
like a melon, just starts
smashes it against a wall. My favorite thing.
Poor thing. Poor guys.
What's with the
out.
past two movies having both the eyeball thing? Because Talk to Me had the eyeball with Riley, and then Riley also smashing his head open, and then this one having Keith's head smashed in, and then spoiler
There's
alert,
a lot of
AJ's
stuff.
eyes getting turned to jelly.
Didn't even Maloom have some like head stuff? And then what was before that? I feel like Hereditary. Everything we've been doing
was about the head.
has been doing things with heads.
Yeah.
I think even before that, but we do have Keith being taken out. So then we're like, what the fuck? And then we just have it cutting out, and then we cut to what I would say is our like second act of the film. Second part of the movie.
Yep, and we're with a really happy, upbeat song. This is where I think it would have been perfect if they would have put the title card there. Yeah, because then we're with AJ, aka Justin Long's character.
Yeah, driving along the like California coast. It looks like.
Yeah, beautiful. And he's singing about Ricky Tikki Tavi. Did you ever read about Ricky Tikki Tavi?
No.
Oh,
what is that?
Ricky Tikki Tavi, the mongoose.
What is that?
He like saves a little kid from a snake.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
I guess it's supposed to be ironic maybe or something that he's singing that.
Yeah. And then I wonder what the significance of the snake was in her dashboard.
Oh, yeah.
Because it kept showing that multiple times.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And then with the song of Ricky Tikki Tavi killing the snake,
That's
I wonder
true.
if he's the
Foreshadowing.
snake. And she...
The mongoose?
Or at least, because mongoose are still terrifying and can be bad.
I don't know much about mongoose.
I'm pretty sure they can still be very dangerous.
I'm picturing an anteater for some reason, and I know that's not a mongoose.
A little aardvark. Well, mongoose do look, I feel like, kind of
similar.
Yeah, let's mongoose.
Boom. But yeah, we're with him in this little holly-go-lucky kind of scene of him driving along the highway, and it's cut abruptly.
They look kind of like a little fox.
Because he gets a phone call from his agency.
Or like, what are those prairie dogs?
Oh, I kind of see what you mean. Almost looks like a meerkat.
Timon. Meerkat, yeah.
Timon's a meerkat.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Timon's a meerkat. But they do look similar like to prairie dogs. I think prairie dogs are more chunky. And meerkats are like...
I think
snatched.
Meerkat's more like a ferret. Longer.
Yeah, definitely. And the prairie dogs are more stout.
Yeah, and they kill cobras.
The prairie dogs or the mongoose? The mongoose. Yeah. Are mongoose from a different country?
They're pretty cute.
Are mongoose from Australia or something like that?
Probably. Something that has king cobras.
The outback. And so
I'd pet one.
The phone call from this agency is telling him basically like he has some allegations being brought up against him from an actress named Megan, who I guess he had worked on a stint previously. And the allegations are that he sexually assaulted her.
Yeah.
The R word.
Getting accused of SA.
Yeah.
And he basically is getting kicked off the pilot episode that he was on, and he's
getting
out.
Fired.
Yeah, he's getting fired. And so he goes to his wealth manager and to try and figure out exactly how much time he has left before he's out of money. And we figure out that he has all of 3 months before he reaches zero with all the legal fees and with zero money coming in. Yeah.
And he obviously, and throughout the whole phone call and his whole, his tone, the way he's handling the situation, we can already paint that
he's probably not the best dude.
He's a dick, and these allegations are probably true. And so we have the accountant, and then also at this moment telling him, like, I think you need to find other financial representation. So he's getting dropped by his accountant essentially as well. So this is whenever we do have talk of his other properties being mentioned, because he has rental properties, because he doesn't necessarily want to sell his house that he lives in. He wants to sell these little homes and stuff. But even the financial manager is like, you could do that, but it wouldn't buy you that much more time. And so AJ is really stubborn. So then he's just like, okay, whatever. So then we have him catching a flight. He's on his way to Detroit, all while like the story's breaking out. He's reading articles online. It doesn't look too great for him in the situation.
I figured it out.
What happened?
The I looked it up. The snake charm in Tessa's car acts as a wildly understated foreshadowing, pointing to the mother, a Medusa figure of revenge warped irreparably by the violence of man.
That's deep.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is. Yeah. Everything perpetuated in this movie is pretty much caused by the man.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And second, this is getting a little bit ahead, but whenever AJ looks through Keith's things left in the house, he finds a copy of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And Jane Eyre, a man locks away his wife, Bertha Mason, in a secret room only for Bertha to get free and cause a bunch of strangeness, culminating in a massive fire. And this light, Barbarian, becomes a contemporary reworking of the novel of a gothic horror about a man locking his prey offspring away in a basement only for one of them to eventually break free and terrorize the neighborhood.
That's true.
Yeah.
I never remember saying that, and I was like, I don't know. I feel like this book has some deeper meaning to it.
I remember looking at it too,
it for a
and
while.
I was like, I've read Jane Eyre, but like way back in the day. But anyways, I thought I would share that tidbit because I just looked it up because I was like, I have to know. Because they
snake,
like pan in on the snake twice.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it's got to have some significance in this film. Yeah.
And we have him then arriving to his rental car, and he's on the phone with, I'm assuming is one of his lawyers, and he is, talking to the lawyer about how he is now in Detroit. The lawyer is like, you should not have left the state. Like, this looks very bad.
Yeah.
The optics, like
that should have been
obvious.
The man's not the brightest.
Not at all. And he's very what's the word?
Absorbed.
Yeah, narcissistic with the self, like everything that serves himself, self-serving.
Yeah.
And so obviously he is being a jerk even to his lawyer, I guess, on the phone. He's like, I've got to liquidate, so I'm here for work. It's not for pleasure. And so he ends up
definitely not on the lam.
Yeah,
he says
he ends up going to this booking not like a realty place, I'm not sure, somewhere where they have the keys to the house, his property, and he's like, hey, I'm here to pick up, and she's like, oh yeah, so and so said you'd be here, and she's like, 476 Barbary, huh? And we already know that Barbary is the house that all this shit is taking place at.
Yep, we're already in,
so it's connecting right now. And so he gets there and he gets into the house, and this is when he notices that there's like people shit there.
Yeah. And so he calls to be like, what the fuck?
Someone staying here? Like someone living here? Do I have squatters?
Yeah. And they were like, the last tenant should have checked out weeks ago, which so now we know it's been weeks.
Yeah. That Tess has been there.
Yeah. Tess has been locked away. And he's basically like, what? So there's no maid service that comes? And they were like, well, the maids come whenever
people rent it out.
And no renters means no service.
Yeah.
And so that nothing had happened.
And he's getting a little bit rude with her. So she's just like, have a nice day.
Have a good
Goodbye,
day.
Sir.
Bye. And just hangs up.
All good for her. And then
also I would be a little pissed off if I was having people manage my property too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like they weren't regularly checking up on it.
I guess so, yeah.
Especially
but I mean, that
in
makes
a neighborhood
sense,
like that.
I feel like that does make. I feel you though.
I don't think I don't think he should have been yelling at her.
Yeah,
by any means. But I would have also been.
You could see the problem as well.
Yeah, I would have been a little upset too. But yeah, then he goes out. He calls his buddy. He gets a call from his buddy after talking with his mom, and his mom was like, "What are we supposed to tell people?" And then he basically clearly doesn't have a great relationship with his family.
Oh yeah, he's brushing it off, and especially because she wants him to come home, which is Detroit, which we're finding out, and because she's like, Detroit is just 4 hours away, and he's like, whatever, cuts off because he's like, oh, I've got another phone call, Mom, this is work. And so this is whenever he ends up getting a phone call from his friend, and he ends up meeting his friend out for drinks at the bar.
And his friend's basically like, well, just tell me what happened. And he says something along the lines of, she just took some convincing at first, which is like,
I'm a persistent guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he's really selling this character well of making you hate him.
Oh yeah. Justin Long plays a phenomenal asshole at this film. He does such a good job and I love Justin Long as an actor. I think he's done some wonderful things, like Accepted.
You love you a good comedy.
I do.
Yeah.
Except I love me a good stupid comedy.
Yeah, like Will Ferrell humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Accepted. Yeah. Dodgeball.
Yeah.
Dodgeball's a great
That's
film.
a good one.
Justin Long's in that.
And he ends up just kind of digging his hole even more and more because he gets back home and starts drunk dialing her and calling her and just like on the phone is like, if I did something to offend you or hurt you, I am so sorry. But like, it's just really bad. It's really cringe.
Yeah. And he's incriminating himself.
Oh yeah, for sure.
As well.
And he's like, I'll just apologize to you. Like, you can just call me again and I'll keep apologizing. And so
it's like, it's too late to apologize.
Yeah, very much so. And then we transition to the next day. And he is like, throwing up. He has a bad hangover, but at this point he starts to notice more stuff from who was staying there. So he starts to go through their shit.
I love how he just fucking tosses Tess's laptop after opening it.
Because he doesn't care about anything
but himself. Yeah. He just like is
no
like
respect.
Chunk.
Yeah. And he ends up kind of searching around through the place, and then he ends up going into the what's it called? The basement. Because I think he remembers whenever he got there, because Tess had left the chair on the door, so it was open. So he goes down there, and before he can even get all the way down there, he hears like a thud, and so he's like, "I've got a gun, and I'm gonna shoot you.
Not afraid to use it.
Yeah, or you can come up and I'll let you go." Not very convincing at all. But he ends up going down there and he sees like the door open and shit. And then he goes further in. And that's whenever he goes and sees that room. And like you would think a normal person would be like, oh my God, what's going on? But he ends up immediately Googling, can underground rooms be counted as square footage?
Square footage, yeah.
And so he's down there like with this measuring tape trying to literally get the dimensions of the floor, the layout.
The door wasn't really like, because whenever he went down there and the door wasn't open anymore, and like you could see the outline of the door. I was like, the door wasn't super secretive, especially once he was standing, because he went and stood in front of the mirror propped up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And
notice like, oh, what is this doing here?
Yeah. And then he saw the rope and pulled it open and stuff. But I was like, that door wasn't super well hidden in the first place. It looks clearly like there's a door there. But anyways, yeah, he's measuring. He looks it up, and even a finished basement can't be counted as square footage in the house, which is kind of weird. I feel like it should be. Yeah. I feel like the basement should be included in the square footage of the house in general.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Basement bedroom, super cool.
Terrifying. Too many ghosts. We've seen
too many horror movies.
What's that?
Which one?
The
Connecticut?
Haunting of with Ryan Reynolds that we
Amityville Horror. Yeah.
Where he goes and sleeps in the basement and the stuff starts talking to him.
But not for Justin Long. This idiot just keeps going in, and then finally he finds the other door. And he's like, oh, even more square footage. And just starts going down like nothing.
Yeah. It's like so dark. And he's just willy-nilly like, do. Yeah. Just happy-go-lucky as he's measuring all this extra square footage. And
it's not even until he gets all the way down there. And then he kind of notices that there's that like light coming from the room on the side. And he's like, hello? Like, is anybody down here? And then his tape measure gets snapped.
Yeah.
And then he's like, whoa, what the fuck? And I love how we have him freaking out. And I think he even like, is this when does he run first, or do we get that POV of him with his arms and he's kind of like, I don't know. But he ends up running terrified. Because
he stops by her room for a little bit, looks in, and then we get the nursing video.
Yeah.
And stuff. And then that's when his tape measure snaps, and then he basically just starts running, and he's running, and he falls into this
hole.
pit. Yep. And then all of a sudden this cage closes down on top of him, and he looks around for a bit, and then we see Tess is down there too.
And we see that she's still alive, thankfully.
Yep. And then we transition to
our third act of the film.
Yeah, with the house in its heyday, basically.
It's like the probably 50s. I don't know. Oh, yeah, 50s. It could be any time period.
Happy-go-lucky, bright 50s, 60s kind of.
Cookie cutter homes.
Yeah.
Cookie cutter neighborhood. Yeah. And we have Mr. What was his name?
Frank.
Yeah, Mr. Frank. And he is, leaving the house. He is going to buy stuff at the grocery store. And he's buying a bunch of stuff for like a baby. And then we have a newborn baby specifically. And that's whenever we have this lady in the store helping him out, getting stuff. And basically,
she's like, surely your midwife gave you a list. And he was like, it's a home birth. It's just me.
Yeah. And so she's really helping him out, not knowing that this dude is
a serial murderer, rapist.
And so he ends up getting on that shit, and this is where we see like where the video came from as well. She gave him a video, and we have a VHS, and we have him leaving. Then as he's going probably on his way home, he ends up spotting this lady, and he follows her home, and he ends up pretending to be a serviceman with also like his fucking name tag on the service outfit said Carlos. Is not a Carlos.
Clearly not a Carlos.
But he ends up, convincing her very easily, like, let me go in, ma'am. And so he ends up going in there and like locking the windows, and I'm assuming getting stuff ready for fucking kidnapping her, abducting her. And so at this point, then we have him
Did you say locking or unlocking?
Locking.
Oh, I think he was unlocking.
Oh, was he unlocking it?
So that way he could crawl into the house and get her later.
That's true. Okay, I see what you mean.
I'm pretty sure that's what he did.
Got it.
Yeah, but he's being real creepy and then leaves, and it's just what different times when people didn't question things, and she just let him into her house, and
and he ends up going back home, and then that's when we have his neighbor coming up to him being like, hey, like before you see the signs and it gets awkward, like we're gonna be moving, the neighborhood's going to shit.
The neighborhood's going to hell. And then little do they know that he's the reason why. He's
asking Frank, like, are you gonna move too? And Frank's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. So that's why we get knowing like that, why they stay there forever. And then we have all of that happening. He walks back into the house. We have him going all the way to where we know the basement door is, as we hear some woman screaming in the background, unfortunately.
Poor woman. He's got locked in the basement.
And then we have it cutting back to Tess and AJ back in the hole.
Yep. And basically at this point, we figure Tess is trying to explain basically the rules of survival to AJ, and is like, whenever she comes, don't freak out. You absolutely must not freak out. You just have to remain calm and do like what she says or what she wants. Yeah. And so sure enough, she comes up and AJ's not, he's like, what the fuck is that?
Not complying.
Yeah. And then she sticks down this baby bottle.
So gross.
Yeah. And her hair's like all
wrapped around
the nipple of the bottle. And
it's a huge ass bottle as well.
It is.
I don't know how even where.
Also, she has a better set of nails than me nowadays. Right now? Yeah, because I can't get my nails done. But her nails were like so long, but they were in coffin shape. Like she had a full set of coffin set shaped nails.
She got a lot of time down there. She'd just be filing.
Yeah, all day.
She could probably do a really cute gel set.
Yeah, for real.
And so she ends up trying to feed them, right? And he's not partaking in any part of it, but Tess is like, just do it. And then Tess ends up drinking the milk. So nasty. And then we have Mama.
Probably the only way she can survive.
Yeah, for those many weeks. And then Mama is getting upset with AJ. So she like jumps down there, which is really scary because she's massive.
Yeah.
And like it makes a whole thud and everything.
Yeah, she's huge because Frank was huge.
Yeah. And then she ends up taking AJ out of there, and just we don't know what's happening to him at this point right now, but it leaves Tess in the room by herself. And so at this point she ends up trying to before she tries to get out, it's funny because we have Mama taking AJ to that little room that we saw earlier with the video, and she's like trying to breastfeed him, but before that she does that little boop on his nose,
which I feel like is one of the best parts of this film.
You love a good boop. And we have Tess now getting out of the hole.
They booped and talked to me too.
Yeah.
At the party. Yeah. Jade comes up to Mia at one point whenever Mia's looking in the fish tank or in that whatever tank saying, I'm just being a weirdo or whatever.
Yeah.
She went boop.
That's true.
To her. She came up to her and I was like,
Like a boop.
A little boop.
We love boops. And so Mia's out of the hole and she's running for her dear life. And she ends up coming past the room
Tess
where
is out of the hole.
I'm sorry. Ugh. Yeah, not Mia.
Yeah.
Tess is coming out of the hole. And that's whenever she ends up seeing that room that AJ and Mama trying to breastfeed him is in. And as she's, contemplating on like whether or not she'd help or get run away, she ends up stepping on the freaking tape measurer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it kind of alerts Mama that she's out of her cage. But so since this happens, Tess ends up running up and out of the downstairs area through the basement, and then she gets to that window and breaks out the window and climbs out of the window.
The door had closed and she was locked down there again. Yeah. So she had to break out of that window and she's crawling out, and she barely gets away from Mama.
Yeah.
Like the
unhoused man.
Andre
was that his name? Yeah.
Yeah. Andre pulls her out just in time. And then you just see like Mama, I'm going to call her
reaching
Mama.
For her. Yeah.
Yeah. Reaching for her. And she just kind of like hisses and is like,
yeah.
And he's like, you got out. You're safe. Yeah. And he's basically explaining to her, like, she's like, no, someone's back down there. And he's like, no, you got out. Like you better get away from here. She comes out at nighttime and you better get out of here before she comes and finds you. Because she will find you, is what he said, basically.
Yeah. You're her baby now.
Yeah, you're her baby.
And so she's gotten out, obviously, but she's still concerned for AJ, who's still in there. And so that's whenever he ends up, we cut back to AJ and he's running away from her at this point because she obviously, was chasing after Tess. And this is whenever he ends up running so much that he comes across that room. And then Mama comes up, but she is obviously spooked of this room. So it's kind of leaving you thinking like, damn, what is she afraid of that? Now she won't even go towards this room.
Yeah. And she retreats from the room, which is like
also terrifying to see her kind of walking up and then
it's like when you see the predator retreat and you're like, oh God, there's a bigger predator behind me. Yeah.
But he doesn't think that way, obviously.
It's like when there's a velociraptor and then there's a T-Rex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now I want to watch Jurassic Park. And so she ends up he ends up going into the room that's behind him. And it's basically like a bedroom, essentially. An old or a lair. And so this is whenever we do cut back to Tess, who has now made her way to some gas station or area, I guess. And she's trying to talk to those cops who are not giving her the time of day.
Yeah. The cops think that she's just some like
crazed addict
drugged out individual who's been on a bender for days or something. She looks rough.
Yeah.
But they're not, and they're familiar with this area of town and it's probably large vagrant community and stuff. And so they're thinking that she's just another one and they're not willing to believe her. But they're judging her solely based on her looks.
She ends up kind of getting them to go there for a little bit, though. But just for them to fucking leave her there.
I would have been like, look, this is my car. I can't get into it because my keys are in the house and I was renting this house. Like, but they clearly weren't willing to listen to her. Yeah. But yeah.
And at the same time that, she's talking to them, AJ is down there basically trying to help the old man because I guess he's thinking that he's being held captive there by the monster lady, Mama. And then he ends up.
But he's also like simultaneously being such an ass. He's like, I'm going to get us out of here. Well, I'm going to get out of here and then I'll go get help. And then
I'm gonna get that bitch.
Yeah. And he's like, and don't worry, like there will be cops swarming the place in a matter of
which obviously
hours. And
he don't want that.
He don't want that because
Mr. Frank.
That's he's been doing illegal shit his whole life.
Yeah. And so that's whenever we have AJ then finding the videotapes, the VHSs. And it kind of cuts away from that. And then we have Tess now trying to, because she's been left by the cops, asshole cops, she's breaking back into the house through the window where the dining room is, so that way she can go in there and grab her keys. But she ends up when she grabs her keys, I think this is like a moment where she's like contemplating of whether or not she should stay and help more. And then it cuts back to what's his face, AJ, in there with the old man, and he's like, the old man is like beckoning for something, and so he like tries to give him water, and then he's like, I don't know what you want, and then
so he just moves the whole nightstand over there next to him, and the whole time while he's finding all the old man's videos and stuff,
and watching
like
them.
Frank is sitting there rummaging through the nightstand drawer, and once the video ends, AJ turns to face him and is like, what is wrong with you, man? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And then that's when Frank pulls out a little tiny baby gun, and
aims it at AJ at first, but then ends up just shooting himself in the head.
Shoots himself.
Another headshot.
Then he is dead.
Unalived.
But then we're back with Tess, and she is now getting in her car and has the option to drive away, but chooses to ram the monster because
Mama comes out.
Mama comes out right in the nick of time and was like, and then Tess is just like,
and rams it right into her and into the house. And so the mama monster is pinned in between the house and the car, but not dead, because she's like, and then ends up, I guess, kind of passing out.
Yeah, unconscious. And that's when Tess gets out of the car and decides to go back and help AJ. So she goes back down there and is looking for AJ.
One of the most like infuriating parts of the movie.
Yeah,
maybe not the most. Sorry, there's another part that's more infuriating coming up, but this part sucks so bad.
I understand that he must have been scared, but the light was shining on her for a hot second before
and it's
he shot.
Only light on her. Like he could visibly, I feel like, see that
it was her and not the mom.
Yeah.
And
he's such a dumbass.
He shoots her.
He shoots Tess. Yeah, as she's coming to help him. And obviously, and he runs up her, and then he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, and then he's like, you're okay. We're going to get you out. We're going to get help. And so they end up getting out. And then that's when we notice when she comes out that, the mama's not there where she was.
Yep.
So they're like, what do we do? And she's like, I know where we can go. So they end up going to find Andre, which they do. And Andre takes them to
at the water tower.
Underneath the water tower.
Yep. And then he's basically explaining that she's lived there for her whole life. She comes out at night, and that she is basically so inbred that
it's like when you make a copy of a copy of a copy,
it gets that way.
Like that's what you get.
Yeah. And
he was like, because he explained that he would take those ladies down there and then have babies with their babies and babies with their babies.
Yeah.
Which is so weird.
And disgusting.
Yeah.
And so basically that's how we got Mama. And
it's funny because then they're also freaking out because they're like, are we even safe here? Like, what are we, like, we need to go. And he's like, I've lived here for 15 years and she ain't ever coming here. And then automatically she just busts through.
Yeah.
And then
and before AJ got all introspective too.
Oh yeah.
And
he's like,
am
I'm
I
a terrible person. Yeah. I shot her.
Blah. Yeah. And it was like, and then you could tell he was clearly thinking about his essay.
He was projecting
charges as well. And it was like, dude, you're a
terrible person. Yeah.
You suck. You're not a good person who does bad things. You're just a bad person.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Mama breaks in and she yanks up Andre and then just rips off his little arm and then starts beating the shit out of him with his own arm.
Pelting him with it.
So
funny.
Badass.
Yeah, funny. She's just like a rag doll, just like, wow, wow, wow. And then we have them running up the stairs of the water tower.
I like Mama.
Yeah, she's honestly misunderstood. She's not really doing anything bad. She's honestly protecting her own, her child. And then that's whenever they're running up the stairs of the water tower, kind of going up on the side. And man, poor Tess is fucking shot. So she's struggling here. And AJ is just leaving her in the dust. And he's like, come on, come on. And they do.
She's like, wait for me. And he's like,
They end up getting close to the top. He gets up there obviously first. And then that's whenever we have her getting up to the top. But the mama is right behind her. Excuse me. And so he has his gun, but as he's about to like pull it out, he fucking drops that.
Like a little bitch. He drops it because his hands are shaking too bad and he can't get a hold of it. And then he goes, well, one of us has got to get away. So then he just takes Tess and he throws her off the water tower and says, come get your baby. Come get your baby.
Yeah.
And Mama just hops right off after her.
Catches her midair somehow, I guess.
I think her body mass made her travel faster than Tess did.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And
she's
then
heavier.
Wrapped her up in her little arms and ends up saving Tess's life by using her body as
like
a shield.
Mm-hmm.
And then AJ comes down and he was like, you actually slipped.
Yeah, I didn't even
he was like
go.
gaslighting her.
I didn't
I was like,
you slipped.
AJ, what the fuck?
He's like, here, let me save you. Let me save you. I will save you.
I was like, no.
Stupid. But thankfully,
Mama pops right up and then she just picks up AJ by his head and then takes her little thumbs and just presses them into AJ's eyeballs, makes jelly. It looked like applesauce coming out of his eyes.
It did.
And then, makes my eyeballs hurt. And then, just splits his head in half.
Yeah.
And then the whole time, she then just drops AJ and looks back at Tess and is like babbling and is saying like,
and then that's whenever we have Tess grabbing the gun and pointing it to Mama's head. And it's kind of like a really sentimental moment.
I know, because then Mama kisses her little fingers and then puts a kiss on Tess's forehead.
Because it's almost like Mama even knows like what's about to happen, and she's kind of giving her like permission, like
to shoot her.
Do it, baby.
Yeah. Do it, Pepe. As long as my Pepe lives.
Yeah.
And
Tess shoots her.
Shoots her, and then roll credits. The credits come on, and then we flash back to Tess getting up and
walking away.
Tess walking away and
like stumbling. Yeah.
And this is a fantastic version of where they took a happy song and made it creepy, because with that "Be My Little Baby" song, that not "Be My Little Baby," not that one,
no,
but it was a different one that also older. Said "Be My Little Baby." They did a great job of taking a happy song and making it creepy. It actually had some relevance, unlike "Smile" and "Lollipop, Lollipop."
Oh yeah.
This one was good, but yeah, that is 2022's Barbarian.
Yeah, which was pretty good.
Pretty good.
Thank you for the recommendation, Miss Nancy.
Yes.
I guess I'll go first with my Bubeical review.
Bubeical.
I hated it. No, I'm just kidding. No, I really liked it.
I thought almost it was choked on my own spit.
Good. I remember when I first watched it too. I thought it was so good. I thought it was really upon your first watch, because you don't really know what's going on. There was so many moments where I was like, I thought it was gonna go in this direction, but then it didn't. And then you have like the breaking down of the kind of 3 different parts of the movie that I feel like really it worked for the movie, and it felt really like kind of. I mean, obviously other stuff has probably been broken up like this before, but it just kind of seemed like new-ish and like fresh, and felt like the people who made it had a good like plan of where they laid it out pretty good. Like it was, as much as like there was a twist and like, oh, I thought it was going here, it was going there. Like it didn't seem like it was unreasonable or like unjarring or like, how did we get here? Like, what is this? What's going on? Like, it all still made sense. And the acting was pretty good. Honestly, I feel like I'm kind of sad that Bill wasn't in it as long, because I feel like that character kind of could have gone somewhere maybe in the storyline.
But we did need that good shock value to kind of reset the film.
Yeah, and to kind of throw you a bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
and to make you be like, oh shit.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be feeling what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree that Mama was misunderstood, and it's kind of like an unfortunate circumstances of events.
Yeah, it's not her fault that she's.
And even like the whole situation with Bill, with Keith and Tess, like an unfortunate event that like honestly was just kind of a coincidence, but then it works in the film of like the context of the horror film, of like why she's even there and stuff. But like it was all kind of an accident, really.
Yeah.
She just ended up in that spot, and he was there at the same time too. And then I think that it was pretty thrilling. It was pretty scary at some parts, especially whenever like they're in the dark and you can kind of only barely see Mama at some points. I think the design on her was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was pretty, she was like statuesque and tall, but like meaty, and like, even though she was like naked, it wasn't like, because being naked like that, I feel like that could have been also like comical in a way.
Yeah.
Or like taken like not so seriously, but they still did it in a way where it was still pretty scary.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. And it was like human, but not looking
naked,
human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of like a Titan from Attack on Titan. And they're like almost
naked, right?
Yeah, they are naked. But like it was almost like you don't notice her genitalia, except for her boobs.
Yeah.
Which are meant to be there because she's Mama.
Yeah. Which we do see her trying to like breastfeed and stuff.
Yeah. But you don't notice her vagina. Yeah. Most certainly. It's almost like she's like
it's
Ken
tasteful
doll
it's tasteful
or a Barbie doll.
It's tasteful nakedness, if that makes sense. Yeah,
they never like explicitly show it.
Yeah. So all in all, I would probably have to give it like a good 4.5, honestly, out of 5. A 4.5. I think it was directed and told very well. And I don't know if you can make like a sequel or something, or a prequel. I don't know. It's cool. I don't necessarily want another movie of this, like a Barbarian, but like I want more people to look at this movie and be like, we need to make more films like this, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like how to make a good film. Here's an example. Take from what you will and make a good film now.
Yeah. Yeah, because it really is such a great film. I really love it. You want some fun facts?
Yeah.
Let's see. The script started out after Zach Cregger read the Gavin de Becker book, The Gift of Fear, which encourages women to trust their intuition when confronted by obviously dangerous men. He used it as a writing exercise and began crafting a 30-minute short that consisted entirely of a conversation in which a woman continues to ignore a mounting series of red flags. He liked it well enough that he knew he had the makings of a longer film and began conceptualizing a broader story for the characters.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zach Cregger originally offered the role of AJ to Zac Efron.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Efron turned it down, causing Cregger to rethink the role and then offer it to Justin Long, who accepted. The Hollywood Reporter expose on AJ is written by Kim Masters, who is a real-life reporter at the trade publication. In the wake of the Harvey Weinstein cases, she became known for breaking stories about men in the film and TV industry who had been accused of sexual assault. The film is set on 476 Barbary Street. The year 476 was when the barbarians invaded Rome. Director Cregger insists this is unintentional and purely coincidental.
Wow. Sometimes things like that happen in life.
Yeah.
But also people love to like connect dots that aren't even there, if that makes sense. Even though I guess it was a coincidence.
Yeah. Richard Brake shared a story on Instagram about attending a late night screening of the movie, noting that a particular group of teenagers sitting a few rows behind him were really into the film and were terrified. When it was over, they were leaving the theater using the flashlights on their phones. When the light accidentally caught Brake's face, the teenagers recognized him from the movie, then screamed and ran from the room in genuine fear. So Richard Brake
is Frank,
yeah.
That makes sense.
I would be terrified too.
Right. Life imitates art.
Yeah.
Art imitates life.
Did we get Nancy's? Okay. You want to read it?
Yeah, sure. So Nancy says, it's funny. So I don't know how to feel about this movie. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't bad by any means, but it wasn't what I expected. Kind of unsettling, which I guess was the point. The early interaction between Keith and Tess are all too familiar, being a woman in a male-dominated work environment, and I've been in many Airbnbs before, so the thought of someone living underneath me and watching me while I sleep is terrifying.
Yeah, it really is.
The film was funny and at times at the expense of the horror, but it's commendable for taking a stab at something fresh. The mama character is scary as fuck, and if I ever came across her, I would probably just let her take care of me. The twist kept me anticipating what was going to happen next, and by the end of it, it all definitely will have me rethink about booking my next Airbnb. 4 out of 5 boobs.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think any of the comedy aspects came in at the expense of the horror, but otherwise I agree.
Yeah. I feel like the beginning of it definitely felt like more rom-com vibes with a tinge of creepy as opposed to like, you know, what I guess most people feel like a horror movie would naturally be or should be, like jump scares and like all ominous and creepy the whole time. I guess.
Which I appreciate that this film didn't really rely on jump scares at all. It did such a good job of being unsettling anyways. I think
what's your boo rating?
For me, I really enjoyed this film the first time I watched it. I didn't get to see it in theaters, but I did watch it at home once it came out on HBO, and I watched it with Andrew. Andrew was legitimately terrified. Sorry, Andrew.
That's funny. No, that's awesome.
Like that's whole
the point
time.
of a scary movie.
Yeah, he's not as into scary movies, but he does like to watch them, and he really enjoyed this film. He thought it was really good.
That's good.
And it did make him unsettled. So I agree. It was creepy. It was really creepy, and it has me rethinking Airbnbs too and stuff.
That is true. You never know.
Yeah, what's in other parts of the house, or like then there's like kind of like the 13 cameras situation where there could be cameras also terrifying. But overall, I thought this was a fantastic film. This film has everything.
It does. It really does.
It's got a tint of romance. It's got a little bit of comedy. It's got a lot of boop.
Literally her trying to breastfeed Justin Long. That's a bit laughable.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
And but also like
terrifying.
Simultaneously the most terrifying thing I've ever seen.
True.
And it's
grotesque.
Yeah, it's just so good.
Her hairy nipples.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, and even the milk coming out of it looked like yellowy, rotten milk. Yeah, like puss.
Spoiled. Puss.
It's puss. It's not even milk. It's just puss coming out of her.
Puss.
It's just puss. Yeah.
But I loved all the acting in it. I thought Tess did a phenomenal job of portraying someone who was like freaked out, but
also like determined to like try to like help.
Yeah.
As no matter how scared, I guess, or freaked out she was of what was going on.
And to be she had Final Girl vibes.
Yeah.
And there's a reason she lives. Even though she kept going back. But I mean, then again, so did Sally and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff too. Not to help people, but Sally was that's her name, right?
Sally.
Yeah. She's just running around everywhere. So, I think, and then Skarsgård did a stand-up performance in this film. Justin Long, I've never believed someone was more of an asshole in my entire life.
Truly.
So Justin Long did a fantastic job with that. And then Mama was a wonderful creature design. They did a fantastic job with her. I really loved the way she looked. And this was one of the times where it's not scarier having her
be hidden.
Yeah. It's scary seeing her up front and like
center.
And then especially too when she is like slightly shrouded with the shadows. That is terrifying.
That's the scariest.
Yeah. Because it reminds me of like Slender Man and stuff. You're just seeing this like spindly body.
When she was running up towards them the first time, I think, right?
Yeah.
Whenever she was coming towards Keith and then started banging in his head.
And even whenever she slips away from AJ whenever he's by the door and she like kind of retreats to the shadows.
It's very scary.
Yeah. It's very scary. But yeah, I think I would have to give this film honestly like a 4.75. I really, really enjoyed this film. I enjoyed it on the second watch every bit. It was so easy to get through. And I would honestly
especially since they break it up, into like the three parts. It feels like 3 short episodes almost in a way.
It's very digestible, and I would go back and watch this film again today if I had to. I would watch it again. If someone was like, watch Barbarian again.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Let's do it.
Okay, I will. Don't mind if I do. So that's 4.75, a 4, and a 4.5. So we're at like a 4.5.
Yeah. 4.5 for the Barbarian.
For Barbarian 2023. No, 22.
Was it 22? I thought it was 2023. It's 2023. It came out Did it? Well, no, maybe 2022. Was it last year?
2022.
My
Yeah,
bad.
it came out last year.
You're right. You're right.
I was like, at least
Yeah.
But who knows? I've gotten those dates wrong before.
No. You're right. It did come out last fall.
But yeah, so there you have it. A 4.5 overall for Barbarian by Zach Cregger. Yep.
Once again, we're in the lovely Rogue Media Network studios.
That's all, folks.
And they take good care of us. You can
That's
listen
right.
to our podcast and other podcasts on their website called roadmedianetwork.com.
And you can listen to them, also us and them, on a slew of podcasting platforms, the biggest two being
Spotify.
And also Apple. But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that is the only way we can get ahead in this world. And then if you want to let us know your thoughts on Barbarian, please reach out to us on our one social media platform, which is Instagram, and that is at
Boobays Podcast. That's at BOOBAES, because we're your boobays, not your boobabes.
Yep. And then if you want to keep following along with us for this spooky month of October and keeping up with the other films that we'll be watching, make sure you follow us there, and then you'll figure out what we're going to cover.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we know what we're going to cover.
But we're going to find out.
Yeah, we could do Tusk with Justin Long.
We could.
Keep Justin Long in the mix.
Just Justin Long for the rest of the year.
Justin Long, everything.
There's a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, he does have quite a few. Love them.
But until then,
bye, bays.
Bye, bays.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.